About 2 months ago, I decided to learn and reroute the Any Percent with DLC run for South Park, the Fractured but Whole, and I gotta say, this game was an absolute blast to route. There's a lot that had to go into routing all the fights thanks to the wide variety of classes and party members available in the game, as well as the tactics style combat adding another layer of complexity to figuring out the best combination of skills and party members to bring. The run itself is pretty straightforward. There's very little RNG and all combat is completely scripted, so each battle is about memorizing the fastest known set of actions. There's no hard tricks, just a few tight time pauses which can cost a bit of time if you don't get enough hits in. Today I thought it'd be fun to take a deeper look into all the decisions that went into the route and explain how we can now beat the game in under 3.5 hours. Admittedly, this route is still a work in progress. In fact, I may have just finished another massive reroute while working on this script, but hopefully the route doesn't change too drastically over the course of this series. And of course, I gotta give a shout out to BlastDog for routing this category before me. While I've made drastic changes to the route, a lot of the general ideas that BlastDog came up with still make up the basis of a good chunk of the run. Now, without further ado, this is part 1 of Behind the Route of South Park, the Fractured but Whole. First off, let's talk about the category itself. This is the Any Percent with DLC category under any difficulty. The run starts after creating our character and ends once the green checkmark appears after uploading the final photo. We're allowed to use any artifacts, DNA, and party members that get carried over in our toy chest from DLC content, giving us more tools to work with. Because this is under any difficulty, the vast majority of combat will be done on casual mode, as we do 30% more damage against enemies over the default difficulty. We also have combat assist and minigame assist turned on to make our lives easier. Combat assist makes it so all those quick time events in combat are guaranteed even if we mistime them, effectively giving us a 100% crit chance, while minigame assist will automatically do minigames for us, cutting out a lot of human error as well as allowing us to complete some minigames in impossibly fast times.
Unfortunately, we have to disable our gaming buddy Towley, as he does get in the way by pausing combat every now and then. Sorry Towley, looks like we forgot to bring a towel.
Because timing starts upon creating our character, we do at least get to have fun with designing them. Also, the skin color difficulty slider doesn't actually make the game harder in any way, and the one artifact you can get from Morgan Freeman for playing as a black character costs more time to grab than it saves, so you can pick any skin color for your character without affecting the run beyond some minor dialogue differences. To start things off, we're going to our toy chest to pick up the DLC items we've unlocked. The bare minimum we need to do this run fast include the 3 DNA we get from beating all Qazplm and Bring the Crunch bosses, the Time Reamer artifact from the Qazplm arcade, and the Sash of Merit plus 6 from doing all of Jimmy's missions and Bring the Crunch. Beyond that, we either want very few extra artifacts, or we want as many artifacts as we can get. An exact amount hasn't quite been found yet, but I'll explain more about these when they become relevant. Once we got all those, we'll head outside and change combat difficulty to casual. This is done as soon as we get outside because we're locked in place anyways, so we don't lose additional time from not moving when we open and close the menu. While the game does bring up the difficulty change option on one of the fights near the start, we save time on 2 fights by changing difficulty now. Now for the first fight against the Moors, we're going to just engage them normally. We'll simply punch each kid, finishing the fight in 2 punches. You can optionally fart on the green shirt kid before the fight to inflict gross out and have him die on his turn, but the timing either way is very close, with not farting being about 0.2 seconds faster based on what I got, so you'd likely need a perfect fart to even save any time if any at all. The next battle is the first that speeds up because we're on casual difficulty. To start, we're going to fart on the 2 kids in the column to do some damage. Our fart ability is on cooldown, so we're actually going to go to the left and skip our turn. Then on the next turn, we go in and fart on the column of enemies and kill all 3 things to knock back damage. This is about 14 seconds faster than the original strat where we just punch the enemies after the initial fart, as we'd normally need 3 whole punches to get rid of all the Moors. Finally, in this section is the dragon. There's 2 enemies in the column here, so we take them out by simply farting on all of them. Then we skip our turn because the damage from the fire breath isn't high enough to kill us anyways. After that, we just need to bring out our hammer and...
Stay out of the street, damn kid!
Now that we've resumed combat, it's time to end this fight with our Hammer of Heavenly Rain. With the Moors out of the way, we're officially done playing Stick of Truth and are now going to play superheroes, and the very first class that we picked from Cartman is...
Netherborn.
There's two reasons why we go with Netherborn. First off, it's a very strong class. It has a powerful AoE skill, Ghastly Grasp, that causes a chain reaction, which can hit all enemies on the field under the right conditions, and with the Flask of Vampire Tears from beating Qazplm, which boosts all Netherborn powers by 25%, it in total has a potency of 162.5%. For reference, Elementalist Sand Trap is 175% potency and can hit up to 5 enemies in a plus shape, so it does about 7% less damage than one of the strongest AoE attacks while having better range in many situations. Netherborn also has Dire Shroud, which is a strong range skill with 225% potency with the Flask bonus and inflicts defense down on an enemy. Plus it has a fast animation. There's also Soul Slash, which is an AoE melee attack with 175% potency after the boost and knocks back all enemies in a small T shape. This one's not quite as relevant, especially early on because it scales off Brawn. But we'll be seeing this skill used a few times as well. The second reason we want to pick this class is because as a DLC class, there is no tutorial in the hallway, so we save well over a minute from not having to go through the class tutorial. In fact, skipping tutorials saves so much time that we even take an extra detour just to get rid of a DLC class at one point in the run to skip another class tutorial just because of how much time it saves. The other DLC class, Final Girl, is really bad damage wise for the run. It's a very debuff and knockback heavy class, neither of which are particularly great in the run until late game. Debuffs scale with hero rank and don't scale with difficulty, so because we're at almost the bare minimum hero rank the entire run on top of playing on casual mode where all other forms of damage are boosted, debuffs end up lacking, plus they eat up time with extra animations, so we'd like to avoid them unless they make the difference between killing a turn earlier. Hammer Bomb is a really good knockback skill, but because knockback also scales with hero rank, the damage isn't too great until late game. Plus, some fights will need a lot of time to set up for good knockbacks. Potency is only 180%, so it's low for a single target skill. Fatal Trim knocks back and applies bleed, but it only has a potency of 133%, and Soft Bleed doesn't even do damage directly. Out of the other classes, Speedster is the next best choice. The Double Edge skill is absurdly useful, which we'll be seeing later in the run. Beyond that, it has some decent attacks with Quantum Fist hitting for 210% potency to a target exactly 2 blocks away, and Supersonic Dash doing 160% potency to up to 3 enemies and doing a reverse knockback. Brutalist has one of the strongest single target attacks, Brutal Bash, which for now has 240% potency and knockback, as well as the strongest single target ultimate full force fisting with a potency of 700%. The other skills are pretty useless, dealing too little damage for their effects. Blaster is the third best choice, having good range and good damage, though it's ultimately useless in the face of Netherborn as Ghastly Grasp's range is just too good to compete with, and Blaster's AoE skills only have 160% potency. Now with our new Netherborn powers, we can finally start our first mission, to take some selfies. We need a total of 4 selfies, so the closest ones are with Mrs. Farticle, the Mailman, Maddie, and Kevin. One notable thing about this section is that there's 2 dialogue skips you can do. You can get a dialogue skip with the Mailman by breaking the mailbox and very quickly taking a selfie with the Mailman before he starts talking to skip his dialogue. However, the timing is very tight, so instead, I opt to go into my garage instead while he's talking to pick up the 2 bolts of clock that are in there. I need these for crafting anyways, so I lose less time grabbing these now than I would lose missing the dialogue skip. After getting a selfie from the Mailman has another line of dialogue. I can get another dialogue skip off Maddie by very quickly getting a selfie with him so that the Mailman's dialogue interrupts him. When you take a selfie with someone, they normally have a line of dialogue, but if that dialogue gets interrupted, they just go straight to taking the selfie with you. Moving on, our next goal is to go to Craig's house, and on the way we have to fight Bartles the bully. Surprisingly, this fight has gone through a few variations despite how short and simple it is. It started off as a fight where we just used Dire Shroud and ate all hits, to spamming Soul Slash to knock back Bartles and prevent him from attacking, to using Dire Shroud again. Before the fight begins, we want to fart on him to inflict gross outs. The first thing we do in this fight is move down 1 space and skip. Defense down gets cancelled once an enemy takes damage, even from things like debuffs and knockback which don't benefit from it, so we don't want to do anything on the first turn as it's just a wasted action. We also move down because Bartles can only move 1 space at a time, so he can't reach us. We then move left 1 space to stand below him and use Dire Shroud to deal damage, inflict defense down, and prevent him from attacking us again. Next turn, we'll use another Dire Shroud, killing him with only 2 attacks and without taking any hits ourselves. In the immortal words of Peter Mellon,
"The bully has become I'm the bully.
Continuing on to Craig's house, we can't actually enter his home until Cardman finishes talking, so we use this time to grab the Divine Amplifier recipe to the left of his house. It only costs about 2 seconds to grab, and it's faster than buying it instead. Once we're in Craig's basement, we'll help him rescue his pet guinea pig Stripe, and while doing so, we're also going to break the ukulele so no one in this household can make any bad apology videos. We can then pick up the scrap left over while Stripe is running across the room.
You did it, newbie. If you ever need help, you can count on Super Craig.
Continuing on to Kyle's house, we have to fight alternate human kites. This is a scripted fight, and in total we only need to take 2 actions. At the very start, we skip a turn as it's an optional turn to progress the fight. After that, we need to attack alternate kite 2 turns in a row to get the next 2 pieces of dialogue from him.
Kyle, I called a timeout and he didn't listen. You know my asthma flares up when I exert myself.
Then, we need to spam the skill buttons in order to get the next piece of dialogue, and then skip our 5th and last turn.
Alright, here we go, my super ultimate power, get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, Wrath Kite from an alternate universe. Yeah.
With that out of the way, we're heading into Ike's room to grab the Yao E. In the run, we need 100 extra experience in order to level up and unlock an extra artifact slot earlier on a few battles. In total, we're only collecting 5 Yao E, which gets us 25 experience, as well as 90 scrap from Craig's dad and our toy chests, which we'll need for crafting further down the line. Continuing on, we'll finally have gear unlocked. So we'll equip the alien probe, which comes from the relics of Zar on DLC, as well as the Touch of Youth DNA. The artifact doesn't really matter much, we just don't want to equip any of the Ubisoft rewards, as we need to upgrade them later and we can't do that while they're equipped. We're going with the Touch of Youth DNA because it raises brains and spunk by 35% but drops brawn by 35%. A lot of the new kit's skills have lower potencies compared to similar skills that party members have because of the DNA system. With Touch of Youth, we're dropping the damage of Soul Slash and boosting up Ghastly Grasps and Dire Shroud. This makes Ghastly Grasp stronger than most skills that attack 3 enemies in a row, and Dire Shroud is stronger than most single target attacks while also applying defense down. We also get +1 to move, which adds a lot more flexibility to our character due to being able to navigate further on the grid each turn, as well as making the new kid take their turn earlier, which I'll touch on more further down the line. In the meantime, let's go beat up some more 6th graders. Before the fight, we light up the fireworks to deal some damage to them before the fight. Typically when there's hazards in the world to damage enemies, we'll take advantage of them to make the fights go faster. Now we get our first look into just how good the Netherborn class is for the run. We'll start off by going all the way to the far left and use Ghastly Grasp to hit all enemies. This will instantly knock out 2 of the enemies and get another 1 low enough to die from burn damage. Standing in this position does 2 things. First off, we prevent the kid at the bottom from attacking us. Second, it gives room for Human Kite to then come up and get rid of the last enemy before Super Craig's turn, which cuts out the little tutorial for him as well. With the 6th graders down, we can now continue on and access the rest of town.
Alright, that was sweet. Wait until it gets on the internet about how the Coon and friends beat up 4 6th graders. This is great for our franchise. Kinda sucks for you though, new kid, cause now the 6th graders are gonna be coming after you. You probably should have done that. That was pretty stupid. Okay, now go and get our franchise more followers.